Hello and welcome to the reading from the book The Path as Shown by Sage Agastya, a translation of the sacred discourses of Agasthyar Valipadu. Last week, we talked about sudden death owing to murder and suicide. As Appa Agastya said, we understood that one has to complete the entire natural life term in limbo when sudden death cuts short someone's life, especially because of murder or suicide. Let's understand this a little more before continuing, and I'll explain why later. It is imperative to understand that suicide is never an answer to any challenges we face in life. So, what are the reasons? What are the prime reasons that people commit suicide? For financial, social, or personal challenges. For example, people get into debt and they're not unable to figure out a solution, think death is an answer. Some think suicide because they're not able to accept rejection from another or unable to face the harassment from another person. Some commit suicide because they're so ashamed of themselves for something they may have done, or because somebody else or some other forces made them feel that they're worthless. In all these cases, the people who commit suicide are defeating the very purpose of life. We know, as we have learned over these years, that the challenges we face are basically because of two reasons. One, we have already set into motion the challenges that we are going to face because of our actions in the past, whether it is in this life or previous life. And when we face those challenges, we learn to grow, we learn and we grow. And that is the purpose of life. We express and experience and learn and grow. We cannot run away from things. So when we commit suicide, we are only adding to the karmic burden that we already have because we are not completing that particular debt. We are adding more credit into our karmic burden. So we end up spending that time when we commit suicide, the time in limbo, in a state of distress, whether it's mental, emotional, because the spirit is not at rest. The other reason that is, or the thing that is going to happen is when we come back again, when we take rebirth, we have to face the same challenges all over again. So, what is the point in trying to just push something forward that you have to come back and face? See, I have had a lot of people who work in the field of counseling. They share with me that when somebody is contemplating suicide because of any of these reasons or any other reason, even if there's a phone call or if there's a doorbell ringing or some distraction, they change their minds. And that distraction is very vital, which also tells us that suicide is not really an answer to any problems we face in life. See, when I had my own problems in life, and believe me, I have faced all kinds of financial, personal, and other kinds of extreme challenges. I told myself three simple words: sit, stay, finish. And that is so simple. That's all you need to do. Tell yourself, sit, stay, finish. Finish what you have to learn. Finish the karmic debt that you have already set into motion. Get it over with. If you run away from it, it is going to pursue you. It is not going to go away ever. So remember that. And remember, you can always find a solution. If there's any problem, if you are unable to find solutions, if your friends and family are not able to help you, ask God or a guru. Ask them not to fix your problem. Ask them to help you find a solution. And trust me, if you ask in faith, they will help you. Even if you have to face a challenge, their support will help you face the challenge so well. There were times when I had no money, no clothing, and I just prayed to Appa, and things came to me. People, strangers felt motivated to help me. It was my faith that kept me going, and Appa's grace because of my faith. Remember that. Faith brings grace. That is a magnet. If you have faith, if you trust in God and Guru, they will help you. There is nothing like, I'm not going to help you because of this or this, that. God and Guru do not do that. So remember, you have the strongest thing that you can possess. You have the magnet of faith and devotion that can bring the solution to you, that can bring the grace to you. Suicide is not the answer. Let's look at it. Financial problems. Think about how your life is. Do not get into debts. Debts are not the answer for many of the things that we need to do in life. If you already have debts, create a chart. Pay off all the smaller debts first. So when as you pay them off, you will start feeling lighter. And then you can create a plan to pay off the bigger debt. Don't buy something more that you don't need when you had debt. Try to live within your means. When I had no money, when I was homeless, I did not buy anything. I did not even have shampoo for my hair. So my hair was like stringy. When my husband, who's my husband now, who met me, he said, you look like a wraith. I was thin. I had no food. So, the food that I ate was not healthy. But I did not go and try to buy nail polish or, something that was not needed. Only what I could afford at that time. And then Appa helped and life changed. So trust in that. If I could find solution because of my faith in Appa, despite being in a foreign country without anything, you can do it too. Now, the trick is, as far as financial life is concerned, right from today, look at your finances, manage it, balance your life. Don't worry about what you don't have if you don't need it. It doesn't matter. If death comes calling tomorrow, you don't need it. None of these things matter. So remember, we come without anything, we go without anything. None of these material things are going to give you anything. Ultimately, you know what is going to help you? What is going to be of more importance to you? Memories, people. This is the wealth you need to develop. So continue to, manage your finances. And now, remember, as far as personal relationships are concerned, I understand there are times when somebody loves somebody else and the person rejects and you want to commit suicide. Don't. People come into our lives. Nobody is permanent. When you die, you have to leave everybody and go. And they have come, then think of the time that you've spent with them as the best time of your life. Keep those memories. Move on. You cannot force love onto somebody else. Love can only be given and received. Remember this important thing. And believe me, time is a great healer. You may think at this point in life that you cannot live without the other person. Time comes, time passes, and you turn back and you know that you've gone on with your life, and that person no longer matters in the intensity that you think it's going to happen. See, all these things are because of attachment to the self or the ego. That's why, if there is any personal rejection or harassment, and in terms of harassment, why does it happen? Again, think, you have set into motion something that is causing this particular challenge in your life, that somebody is harassing you. Think of what is it that you need to learn. Reflect on your own, of what actions you have done, what you have said. See if you can change it. Don't build more karma. Don't intensify the conflict between that relationship. Remember, if you hate somebody and you return hate with hate, or if somebody hurts you and you hurt them, you are continuing the chain. You're putting one more link in the connection between you both. You both have to come back and go through it again. The best way to unlink yourself is not to react, to let it go. And for your own sake, that's very, very important, especially if you're in the spiritual field. You do not want to carry all these to your next life and then come back and go through it again. You're going to have to unlink all your chains. Now, let's also talk about, if there's a harassment, just step away and see, okay, why is this person doing this to me? Maybe change the location, maybe do something else that will help you get over this feeling of anger or upset. Swami Sri Yukteswar, who was the guru of Yogananda, when somebody came and criticized him, he never felt bad. He first sat down and he reflected, even though he was such a great guru, what was it that I did wrong? If such a great guru can reflect on that, can't we do that? So remember all this. All this is because of either karma, or because you have to learn something, or because of both. So remember, suicide is not the answer. And I'll tell you why I brought this up and why I talked about all these talking points, because this early morning, I wasn't planning to talk on this. Appa Agastya woke me up, gave me all these points and said, you need to talk about it. And I know there is somebody out there who needs this response, who needs this message. So now I ask Sister Sumati to continue with where we left off.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Death due to accidents. Accidents are slightly different from murder. In accidental deaths, the negligence of the person is involved. In any case, an accident occurs without planning. That is the crucial point to note. Since no plan has been made to terminate life, such a person is innocent. He will spend time as a good spirit and will not harm anyone else. He spends his time with other good spirits where accumulation of knowledge is possible. Another important thing to note here is that you do not need a body to acquire knowledge. A spirit is a soul wrapped in the mind. Therefore, good spirits or even higher beings can give knowledge to such spirits, who can go back to the place where they came from, either directly or after some births. Again, a person who has been murdered may also be innocent. He too can follow the same path, that is, at a higher level, some higher spirit guides can guide and liberate the soul.
Beautiful. So, what is Appa telling us? Appa saying accidental deaths are different from murder. Murder is because someone else, is angry with you or for some reason murders you. But accidental deaths are just that, accidents. It could be a car accident. It could be somebody just, slipping and falling without intention. See, the key here is there is no intention to cut short the life. So intention is the key word you have to remember in karma. If there is no intention, if something is done without intention of hurting somebody or hurting the self, then there is no karma involved in this. But in this, what happens, even though the time is cut short, and as Appa explained, if the person has to live for 80 years and his life is cut short in 30 years, then he has to spend the next remaining years in limbo, right? But because the spirit has not done this out of, or the soul has not done this out of anger or because of self-inflicted wounds or any other reason, then such a person can actually, in the astral level, continue to accumulate knowledge. So Appa tells us something very important here. He says, you do not need to have a body to acquire knowledge. So, what is a spirit? A spirit is a soul wrapped in the mind. Therefore, Appa says, good spirits or even higher beings can give knowledge to such spirits who can go back to the place where they came from either directly or after some births. So they can resume. So the important thing is this. Remember, when you're sleeping, especially if you're on the spiritual path, and you receive symbols, you receive some strong impressions that you're bringing back, you see something, you wake up with some knowledge that you did not have before. If poems form in your mind, or verses or mantras, and you get up to write it down, all that is astral level. You're accumulating knowledge in the astral level. Many of us are meeting our divine guides, our gurus, or gods, and are being taught even as we are asleep. So remember this. You do not need a body to acquire knowledge. So we have to get over the idea that this body is important for everything. Without this body, we can still continue to learn. And then again, Appa says even a person who's been murdered may also be innocent. So, at higher levels, higher spirits can guide them. Now, remember what is life and death? Think of it simple as an analogy of a dream. You're dreaming, and you are going through some major challenges in a dream. Your hands and legs are cut off, and you wake up. What do you see? Nothing has changed. Think of your life as that. When your soul loses this body and wakes up, nothing has changed. And the same thing at a higher level is what you're going to understand as a spiritual aspirant, that all that you're facing, all that you're going through, once you wake up from this dream of life, is nothing at all. It's just a reflection. It's just a dream. It's the absolute dreaming of all this. The beautiful depiction of Ananta Shayana, it always touches me. It is that. It is the absolute in a beautiful cosmic sleep. And all this is happening that you begin to understand and enjoy as a spiritual aspirant when you realize that all this is just a matter of a dream, a beautiful dream. And that is why life is important, because then you have the joy of Dvaita, of appreciating and loving another. In Advaita, in knowing that you're nothing but the self, the knower and the known are one, it is just complete bliss. But there is a beauty in Dvaita where, because we are born here, we are in this world, there is so much to experience and enjoy and learn, which is what we are going to take back to with us, and and feed into the universal consciousness. All these experiences, all these thoughts, nothing is ever lost. And that is why the universe keeps expanding, because we come as souls from the absolute, experience, think, add, go back, and all that continues to expand. And there, it is there stored. Data is stored to be downloaded. That is how those great scientists, when they focus on something, they say, "Hey, Eureka, I learned this," because knowledge is already there. They have just received it. And that is why the rishis of the yore of India and abroad, they were able to connect directly to all the sources of knowledge and bring it down so easily. They could talk about astronomy, about astrology, about philosophy, about everything, science, plastic surgery, long before modern medicine even thought about it or understood it, or invented it. Nobody really invents anything, because everything is already there and we are just downloading that knowledge. So let's continue. Sister Sumati.
Death a painful experience is what Anuradha asks. So Sage Agastya says, the experience is always pleasant because death is freedom. There are only two ends for a dying person, liberation or rebirth. When one understands death is the end of or cessation of sorrow, they will be convinced that death is not painful. When a person dies, the elements in him are subjected to degradation. The gross body and the energy body is consumed in the fire or undergo the process of degradation in the earth. The astral body and the causal body separate from the physical body along with the soul. This is called the spirit. Gods are like this. They do not have a body. Because they are without a body, they are called formless. However, gods have the power to manifest in any form at will. When a person sees God, then he's seeing God with form.
Now,
This, yeah.
Appa in this is giving us so many layers of information in just these two paragraphs. He says, let us first talk about death. Is death a painful experience? Appa says, the experience is always pleasant because death is freedom. Try to understand this. We are all afraid of death because we think it's painful. you know what is painful? The process, whether it is, you're having cancer and you're going through the process of, and it is part of life. Whether you're being, stabbed and you're dying, that is part of life. But the moment the spirit leaves the body, it is freedom. And we have heard this from a lot of people who have gone, into the afterlife and come back, near death experiences, we call them. And they say, I feel free. I go up and I look down and I see my body and I see all the people around and I feel free. And some don't even want to come back. Like Sumati's mom said, she went out and she came back, but she had to come back because probably wanted to continue a little bit more of her, life and finish more karma. But that is the beauty of this. You go away from the body because the pain is mainly felt in the body, physical body. But we do know that there is the mental body. And so let's continue to talk about it. So what Appa says is death itself is not painful. So what happens at death? If you are at a stage where you have understood life, have purified yourself, your energy is so pure because of the way you think and act, and you've understood what life is all about, then you get liberated. So Ramana Maharishi and all those people, they were able to get liberated at death. But all of us, most of us who have come back here, and almost all of us who have come back here, we have a rebirth because we have still have a karmic debts to continue. So death is not really a end. It's not something to be feared of. In liberation, you have complete freedom. You return to the original state you come from. In rebirth, you just undergo more of the stuff that you need to learn, experience the beauty of life, and then exit this world. So once you understand death is the cessation of sorrow, then you'll understand that death is not painful. So most of the time we find pain because what somebody has done. But once you're dead, can somebody hurt you? No, they cannot. So there is no more sorrow because of that. So what happens when a person dies? Appa says the elements in him are subjected to degradation. So what are the elements? The gross body and the energy body is consumed in the fire or undergo the process of degradation in the earth. So Annamaya and Pranamaya Kosha, as we call it, the Hindu system. So we talk about 5 sheets the soul has. And in the Western system, they talk about 4. They talk about the gross body, the energy body, astral body, and the causal body. We talk about the Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, and the Anandamaya Kosha. So now the energy body and the gross body get disintegrated. But the astral body, which is the mental and intellectual body, which we call the Manomaya Kosha and the Vijnanamaya Kosha, and the causal body, which is the soul, which is the bliss body, the Anandamaya Kosha, separate from the physical body along with the soul. This is called the spirit. So the soul is covered by these 5 sheets. One who is liberated from all these 5 coverings returns to the absolute. So like the little bit of water that is in a glass jar, once the glass jar is gone and the water merges with the ocean, there is no more glass jar. That covering is removed. That is what a soul merging with the absolute is. The coverings are completely removed and the pure energy connects with the absolute. So he says the astral body and the causal body separate from the physical body along with the soul, and this becomes the spirit, or this is called the spirit. So we do know that spirits exist, yes, and it is nothing to be afraid of. I have seen both the good and the bad spirits. I've had experiences of both. And really, there's nothing to be really afraid of because when you have the power of God with you or the grace of God with you, there's nothing to be afraid of. Remember that. And that's why, when people die, and okay, let's go back to the basics. We know that energy is everywhere. Everything you see around you and in you is energy. So each area or object has energy. So who gives that energy to our object that we wear? So jewelry, we give that energy, because the person wears a jewelry for a long time, say like this, then that is going to carry my energy. In spiritual circles, we call it a Shakti path, when something very, very potent, very powerful, good energy is found in a object. So, like the statue I found of Appa Agastya, that is very potent because it's a divine energy. Say, in terms of the Christian system, they talk about relics. Relics are anything that a saint wore, because every little piece of it has energy. It carries that energy of that person. The place where such a person like a saint lives or lived carries energy. So remember that everything is energy. In the same way that we go to a temple where there is positive energy, where it has been consecrated by the great sages and has energy, and you can imbibe that, so also there are places where there have been human sacrifices, or where in the past, in the olden days, or where some murder has occurred, that there is negative energy. So when you know there's something like that, always put a chakra around you. And how do you put a chakra around you? Pray to God and ask God or Guru to put a golden shield around you. Nothing can touch you when you have that. Once, when I was returning from the Asian Age newspaper, I was, we had a office car that would drop us off, especially when we worked after 10 o'clock. So I was with my coworker, and the car was just coming, and suddenly it stopped, and it wouldn't move forward. And no matter what the drivers did, and then he would reverse it, it would move. He would turn around, it would move. He would come back to try to go past that area, it wouldn't move. He was totally, flabbergasted. Then he said, I don't know what's going on. I'm just going to take you back to the office. We'll bring the rest and we'll go through a different route. And we did. And we were dropped off. And then next day, Appa said, in that place, there was an evil energy, and I prevented you from going through that by getting affected by that. So that's how powerful a guru or God's blessing is, or the protection is. So that's one of the reasons, people do not like to buy a house where there has been death or suicide, because there is always that negative energy. And how do you, if you have to go to such a place, get power from God, blessings from God, and hold something like a sacred water, or if you're a Christian, a cross, or if you're a Hindu, kumkum from a powerful place like Mukambika temple, and then sage or incense, all these good things, especially if you do chant mantras and move it around the house, then it will dispel that negative energy. So always remember that things have energy. So when you're getting something from somebody which has been used, be careful of what kind of energy you get, what kind of items you're buying. Always know who was the person who owned it before. If you get jewelry, then wash it, keep it under running water, so that running water can remove negative energy. Keep it in the sun so that the sunlight can remove negative energy. Always do that when you're getting something. And try not to buy something from somebody you don't know. You do not want to do that, because you never know what kind of energy those objects carry. And as objects carry energy, we already know that. Areas core, everything carries energy. Now, another most important thing that Appa has talked about here is, he says, gods are like this. They do not have a body. And this might be very, very, confusing for people who pray to idols and think at this point that God has a form. God does not have a form. God can assume a form. Like Babaji, who's a great, being, who's a light body, who does not have form, can appear in form. Agastya can appear in form. Gods can appear in form, in the form that you want, but they are actually formless. And that is the important thing that you need to understand, is the form was given to a God by the imagination or the intent of a great sage or a rishi. And God conformed to that form so that people who do not understand this higher, truths of life or esoteric truths have something to focus on. So it is not wrong not to pray to an idol or statue, because we understand the spirit of God is there, and that's okay. So it is neither good or bad, but as you progress in spirituality, understand that everything, even this whole world that you're seeing, is energy and there is no form. Once you get to that area, that level of understanding, then all this will start making sense. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to stop this and we're going to have a slight, discussion and continue next week, because there's so much to discuss. So I'm going to stop the recording now.